Good morning and welcome to this Mature Reflection series. We are back with the outstanding Pat Slattery. So first of all, good morning, Pat.
Morning, Pete. It's been great to be back. It feels like we're on a long holiday, right? But it's wonderful to be back here, and it's great to be able to get the opportunity to share again. So
absolutely
looking forward to this morning.
Well, that's it. So we've decided we're going to keep these in bite-sized chunks for people. So this is going to be a 12-part series. We are kindly and openly sort of naming this the How to Become Outstanding series. So I think there's no better man than yourself to actually to try and explain how to become outstanding. And really, that's what we wanted to kick off. So just to let people know, we will be doing this on a live weekly basis. We will also be doing sort of further activities that will come off the back of this as well. So by all means, we recommend people sort of follow the series as come along as well. Feel free to submit questions and any queries that you may have, but we want to make sure these are tangible actions. We want to make sure that people can listen to this and actually take it on board and make it accountable and actionable. So first of all, Pat, welcome back. It's great to see you again. And really sort of take us through, how do you become outstanding?
Yeah, I mean, look, the simple answer and the short answer, it's a choice. Okay. Call over. but you know, people say, okay, it's, you know, that is a simple answer. The simple answer is all about the choices that you make. But then people say, well, what choices? So I think for me, it begins with, you know, asking these certain questions and questions you need to ask yourself. And the first question you need to ask yourself is, who am I? Okay, so the first question is, who am I? And then the next question you got to say is, how do I think of myself? Or how do I think about myself? So that's the second question. And then the third question is, how do I talk about myself? Because as we're going to go through this morning, we're going to go through what we're going to discuss here. We're going to talk about those different words and the different things, but we have to discover where you are, where you're starting from. You know, so have you, you know, the question I often ask people is, have you really ever asked yourself, who am I really? Who am I really? You know, am I a father? Am I a husband? Am I a friend? Am I an engineer? Right? Am I a passenger or a patient? And the truth in these cases is that you are a father because you may have a son or a daughter. You are a husband because you have a wife, or you are a wife because you have a husband. You may be a passenger because you are on the train or on the bus. So in this case, what you have to understand is all of your identities, everything that you believe yourself to be, are all dependent on something else for most people. So then you have to ask yourself then, who are you? Are you a father, a husband, or a passenger? But not knowing the answer to the question, who am I, you keep creating these new identities of yourself, which consequently going further away from your true self. And I believe that a lot of suffering in life, and a lot of suffering, and that just doesn't mean we're not just talking about depression and anxiety and everything, it's so much more. But a lot of suffering in life is because of not knowing your true identity. And until you realize your true self, you believe yourself to be maybe the name that has been given to you. Okay, so the name that's given to me, I'm not Pat Slattery, that's just my name, right? So there's so much more to me than just my name. And that's how you identify me, based on the name that you've given me. But the reality is, who am I? And who are you? And the reality is, you are an internal soul. Now, we're not going to go too deep into this today, but maybe as we start going through this program, people will start discovering a little bit more. So we have to understand too, for, you know, infinitive past lives, the soul has been hidden beneath a wall of ignorance, okay? And due to this, most people have actually been unable to experience the true self. Now, I think it's Socrates that said that to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, right? So if we want to get to know ourselves, and it doesn't matter to me, people start talking about setting goals and becoming the outstanding person, or, you know, to be outstanding. So some things you're going to have to look at, and there's a couple of little words that we're going to have a look at. And these really small words like I, me, and we. Now, I know we've discussed this in the past, but I think as a part of understanding how to become outstanding, I think it's really important that you take control of these powerful, powerful words. And, you know, and they are powerful words, yet they're so small. but they're such powerful words. And these words can actually make or break you. And you may not even realize it. Remember, we asked the question, who am I? How do I talk about myself? How do I think about myself? And these words, this is why these three words are going to be so powerful. So remember, again, you are what you think. And we will touch on this again later. Okay, but you are what you think. So when a person uses the word I, right? So let's talk about the words I, me, and we, just in a little bit. So when a person uses the word I, what exactly are they saying? Now, the I can be the ego. However, it can also be empowering. So it completely depends on the context. For instance, I am better than you. I am not as good as everyone else. I can do it alone. I can do it with help. Right? So when you start looking at the different areas, I want you to think in the context that how you use these words and how do you use it. Become aware, become consciously aware of, again, I am better than you. How are you using, what context are you using that word? I am not as good as everyone else. I can do it alone, or I can do it with help. Or you may go, I am the best version of me. I choose to be life. In listening to people that are sharing their problems with some people go, I know how you feel. Right? So here's what happens. Some people go, I know how you feel. Now, in what context are you using that? Right? So do you really know how they feel? And do people really know how you feel when they say to you, I know how you feel? In what context are you using that? So listen to the word I and how you're using it, and ask yourself, in what context are you using it? Okay, is it disempowering or is it empowering? Because this is part of becoming outstanding. Because if you verbalize something, how you verbalize something is also how you think about things. Okay, and remember, you are what you think. Okay, so let's look at the word me. This word, the little word me, can come across as selfish, or it can come across as a cry for help, or it can also be powerful. For example, it's all about me. Give me all that I want. What context is it being used in? Or it could be, please help me, or what about me? Or it can be used in a different context as, I choose to be the best me. I will accept all that is good that comes to me as a result of all the good that I'm doing in life. Now, think about the different context. There's a complete different story in how you're using these words. And when you look at those, you got to think, what context would you use them if you were to choose to be outstanding? So then let's look at that little word we. We is fantastic when realized as a team effort, but it can also be very generalized and can have a subconscious negative effects that it can be taken from society. You know, to me, I see the word we being used in many contexts, if you like. And, you know, my saying is, when you say we, you don't mean me, right? Because most people, even those that are coaching, and I see a lot of coaches, people who are giving inspirational speeches, in my opinion, use this word incorrectly. For example, I see coaches, people are really listening to, taking on their information, who say, we keep procrastinating, or we keep making mistakes. Now, to me, that's programming a person, because if they're intently listening, if somebody's intently listening and you want to support them to become outstanding, you got to be careful how you use that word we, because because I see people generalizing on that, and bearing in mind that most people are reaching out for guidance and support, so they will hang on what you say. If you happen to be a coach or a speaker or somebody who's delivering a message, be conscious of this. Even if you're doing this with your sports team, with your kids, with your family, with your friends, it doesn't matter where you're in your company, be careful how you use this word. So if you use those words, I know for me, people say, we keep procrastinating, we keep making mistakes, I go, oh, when you say we, you don't mean me. Because I don't want to buy into that, because that's not an outstanding way of thinking. And remember, you are what you think. And some people say to me, oh, but that's not how I think. But trust me, if you say it, you got to be thinking it. And if you're verbalizing those words in that way, you got to be thinking it. So these are the little things that get in the way of you being absolutely outstanding. And that's a choice. So we got to be consciously aware. And this is about just raising our level of consciousness or levels of awareness around the things that we say about ourselves and how we think about ourselves. So, think about the context that you're using those three words, because those are three very, very powerful words. And remember this too, whatever is expressed externally is impressed internally. So if you keep expressing externally that you are procrastinating, keep making mistakes, I'm this and that, and you're saying things that are of a negative context, that's impressing internally. And this is where I believe the depression comes from, is what you impress deep down and keep pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. So we got to be able to get it out. We got to express ourselves in a way that is really congruent with who you really are at a soul level. So, so somebody says, what exactly then do you know when you know yourself? And to me, I understand that I am here. I'm not Pat Slattery. That's just my name. I am here. I believe, for me, I'm here to make a difference. I also understand that everything I have is borrowed. Everything that I have is borrowed. I own nothing in this life other than what I bring to this life. So, and if I understand that I'm here, and I'm here for a period of time to be the best I can be within this time, to be outstanding, I make that choice. And I also understand that, yes, I can have some material things and I can enjoy life, and I absolutely intend to. But I also know that everything I have is borrowed. Everything I have is borrowed, and everything that you have is borrowed. This office is borrowed, because sometime my relationship with this body is going to change, and I will leave this body. So it means I will leave all these materialistic things that I have beside me and around me. So everything, again, like this office, the desk that I'm sitting on right now, the body that I'm in, the people in my life, all borrowed. So why is it important to know yourself? Now, maybe it's obvious. Maybe it's obvious at this point that you get to know yourself and you get to understand yourself. Because this, to me, is the true essence of being outstanding. And, if you want to get to know yourself, part of the things you'll discover is that you'll be happier. And you'll be happier when you can express who you actually really are. And expressing your desires will make it more likely that you will get what you want, by the way. We talk about the laws of conscious detection and the law of attraction. If you understand, the more happier you are and the more you can express it, usually expressing your desires will make it more likely that you get what you want, because people now know what you want. And they're very clear, and people get to understand who you are and understand your value as a human being. And therefore, the things that you're expressing that you would like more tend to show up, because you start to recognize it, because you're focusing more on the things that you want. And you're focusing more on being outstanding. And let me promise you this, when you do this, you'll feel such a level of happiness, it will just blow your mind. And when you're feeling that level of happiness, you're being outstanding. And guess what? When you're feeling that level of happiness and you're expressing this, more and more outstanding opportunities come your way. Now, again, also, you'll have less inner conflict. When your outside actions are in accordance with your inside feelings and values, you will experience less inner conflict. Okay, because you have to understand your outside actions, the things that you're doing, usually stem from what you're thinking, right? So your actions, you got to look at your actions and say to yourself, okay, are the actions in congruent with me being outstanding? If you look at the context of how you're thinking about me, I, and we, and ask yourself, the outside actions, are they really in accordance with your inside feelings and values? And usually they are, if whatever you're feeling at that particular time. But you have the power to change that. You have the power to create something new. The next thing you do is, when you're in this level of space, you start making better decisions. When you know yourself, you're able to make better choices about everything, from small decisions, from like what clothes am I going to wear today, to the big decisions like which partner, which person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You'll have those guidelines that you can apply to solve life's problems. God knows there's enough for them to be solved, but you will have the guidelines because you make this choice. And you are very consciously aware of in what context you're using the I, me, and the we. You also have a lot more self-control, because when you know yourself, you understand what motivates you to resist bad habits and develop good ones. You will have insights to know what values, goals, and that will actually activate your willpower, that will make you want to get up in the morning to do the thing that you truly desire to do. Regardless of circumstances, regardless of what happens, you will have that willpower to get up and make it happen. You will have resistance to social pressure. right? When you're grounded in your values and preferences, you're likely to say yes when you want to say no. Okay. So when you understand you can resist social pressure, so you know that I'm only going to say yes to the things that are going to be congruent with me being absolutely outstanding. And when you feel like saying no, you will say no because you know it's not congruent to who you are. And it doesn't fit into the context of what I, we, and me would mean to you. You also get an incredible tolerance and understanding of other people. Isn't that amazing? You could just achieve that alone. But when you choose to be outstanding, you get an incredible tolerance and understanding of other people. Your awareness of your own struggles can also help you empathize with others, because you will go through some struggles, and that's just part of life. But it'll help you empathize with other people. You become more tolerant because you'll have more understanding, because you understand what's going on. And you know what? Being who you truly are also helps you to feel more alive and makes your experiences of life richer, larger, and a hell of a lot more exciting. So what do you need to do in order to make this happen? You need to take responsibility for your choices, your actions. You need to take responsibility. Remember, when we talk about, because life is going to throw challenges at you. Life is going to keep turning things up. Now, for me, and we will talk a little bit more about this later in the episodes, when we talk about becoming the master of your life. Because when we think about being the master of your life, most people, when they think about all the things that are stopping, because you'll have the little buts and the ifs and all this stuff start to come in as well, those other words, right? We may discuss later. However, if you allow yourself to become responsible, right? So when we talk about responsibility, this is about becoming responsible. This is how you're able to respond to everything that's going on in life. Okay. And again, to quote Stan Lee from Spider-Man, he says, with great powers come great responsibility, right? So responsible. To be responsible is to have that ability to respond to anything in the way which you choose. And only you, by the way, can choose to be responsible. Only you can choose to be responsible. Accepting full responsibility is one of the highest forms of human maturity. Accepting full responsibility, some people say, is confirmation that you've passed the test into adulthood. So you got to start to learn to reap without apology when you do well, and without complaint when you don't. Okay, so you got to learn to reap without apology when you do well, and without complaint if you don't. So that means once you start to achieve things in your life, accept that you deserve them. Don't feel that you need to apologize to society or to anybody else. That's not you being outstanding. That's not you being the best you can be. You got to do it with absolute pride, with belief, and with acceptance. You take responsibility for you are responsible. And you are able to respond to the good things in life and accept them too, if you choose. And if you don't do well, you have to accept that this is a learning process, it's part of the process. In order to master your life, you have to understand you got to see things on the way, not in the way. Most people keep going, oh, I could do this, but things keep getting in the way. If you keep seeing things getting in the way, they're always going to get in the way. However, if you accept that there are going to be things that are not going to work in your favor from time to time, that you just have to see them on the way, not in the way. And know that there are going to be challenges, there are going to be things that need to be overcome, and you just will overcome them because you know they're on the way, not in the way. So you got to learn to reap without apology when you do well, and without complaint when you don't. Now, because most people, by the way, and I mean this, is where you got to be really conscious too of your environment and where you're sharing your message and how you're listening to those words, the we, me, and I. Because most people have a long list of reasons why things don't work out. When they need, and usually what happens, then they feel the need to explain themselves so they don't look bad, right? Not you guys, because you're perfect, but you know this. You know people like this. People, have this reason or this long list of reasons. So if things don't work, they feel like they need to explain themselves. Or even sometimes, if things do work in their favor, They find that they feel bad if they're in a certain company about, reaping without apology. So they start making excuses or coming up with reasons. So to blame things, right? For example, let's see if you recognize some of them. When people look for things to blame, one, they'll blame the government for something. That's kind of big at the moment. They may blame circumstances, family, spouses, friends, teachers, their boss, only for him, her, she, he, they made me do this, all these type of things. They keep getting my way, they're stopping me. These are things that people say, maybe the weather, work colleagues, traffic, the economy, the community. Some people have a huge list. Some people have a huge list of things that you can use to blame. And the problem with most of these lists are the people that own these lists are not on them. You got to put your own name on the list. If you're going to blame the world and you're looking for something to blame, then you got to put your own name on there. And if you put your name on there, you're taking responsibility for what you can change. It's usually when people feel challenged, or if they don't have an answer, or maybe they don't like the answer, then they tend to go back to the list. Oh, something's going on. I don't like this. Don't like what I said here. Don't like that approach. And here's why. My boss said this, or the traffic was this, or the economy is this, and the community I grew up in, or my family won't believe in me. Usually, all of a sudden, it'll go back to that list very quickly when things don't work in their favor, or if they don't have the answer or don't like the answer. For example, somebody might go, hey, Pat, how come you haven't done very much in your life up to now? You haven't traveled much, and you don't even seem to have a nice car, etc. And I could say, well, you see, I come from the community that doesn't create very much opportunity. So I guess I was lucky to get this job. But this job doesn't pay me too well, and my boss doesn't really care. So it's not been possible for me to have so much of what I really want. I think it's time to tear up your list. I think it's time to take that list and rip it up. There should be no list of blame. If you have the list, it's too easy to go back there. Tear up your list. Remind yourself, if it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. Now, there's the word me in a powerful context. Remember, it is not what happens that determines the quality of your life. Because what happens in life and what happens to you, believe it or not, happens to almost everybody, by the way. Everybody has a story. There's a story of two brothers, one who was hugely successful and one who was living as an alcoholic and living a bum's life. And these two brothers were interviewed. And they were asked, how did they feel that they ended up where they are? And the brother who was living as an alcoholic, living a bum's life, said, hey, when I grew up, my dad was an alcoholic. He didn't care much for us. He didn't take care of us. He gave us a really tough life. So what else was I going to do? And the brother who was highly successful, when he was interviewed and asked the same question, he said, hey, when I grew up, my dad was an alcoholic. He didn't care very much for us. He didn't do very much and gave us a hell of a life. What else was I going to do? So you got to understand and remember here, it's not what happens. It is what you do. What happens is about the same for all people. Almost everybody's coming across similar challenges. The ones that choose to take responsibility and choose to be outstanding usually are the ones who overcome them a lot easier. You know these people too. So you know it is doable. You know people that have been through those challenges. You know those people also. You know people who what has happened for you has happened to them also. Yet they seem to live a fulfilled life. And I promise you, I believe that it is because they choose to be outstanding. They choose how they think about themselves. And they choose how they speak about themselves. And then they choose how to be responsible. And yes, there will be times it will be challenging, but that's okay because you know that everything is on the way, not in the way. And you can make it happen too. Excuse me. It is what is done by different people that determine different outcomes. So if somebody else is doing something different than you, if you're finding yourself challenged or not being outstanding, then maybe you can learn through them what they've done that will determine a similar type of outcome for you, or maybe even a better one. Now, most people, by the way, have lost in some way. Things do happen to everyone. Taking responsibility is actually doing something about it. No excuses. So starting today, I have a question for you now. Starting today, what are you going to do that will make a difference? What are you going to do if you are responsible? If you choose to think in the context of how you're using the I, me, and we, what are you going to do today that will make a difference? Wherever you are, by the way, is a direct result of where you are today. Wherever you will be in 5 years now will be determined by what you do today. It's choice time. It is nice to know that any day you wish, you can change your whole life. Imagine that. It is nice to know that any day you wish, you can change your whole life. So what can you do starting today that will make a difference? What can you do with the economy, with your economy? What can you do if you have no money to do what you want to do? Now, I'm asking these questions very purposely. And note, the questions I'm asking are, what can you do? Because if you think differently, all of a sudden, you become what you think. You will find the answer. You will become solution focused. So again, I'm going to ask you, what can you do starting today that will make a difference? What can you do with the economy? What can you do if you have no money to do what you want to do? What can you do if no one believes in you or encourages you? What can you do if your boss is not a good person? You got to reach down inside of you and find that reason to change. You are the only one who can make you responsible. So reach down inside yourself, find your reasons to change. How can you do it? You give yourself a little bit of TLC. A little bit of TLC. Everybody likes a little bit of TLC, right? So write down the words TLC with T and L below it and C below that. Because when you think about TLC, when I think about TLC, it reminds me of the choices that I have. The T, it means I can take it. The L means I can leave it. And the C means I can change it. My choice. The same is true for you. You want to show yourself a little bit of TLC? Well, I'm going to share some with you right now. You can take it, leave it, or change it. What do you choose? If something is going on, you've got to change, and there's something you're not happy with, what do you choose? Do you choose to take it? Do you choose to leave it? Or do you choose to change it? I know what I choose. I choose change. And everything you're going to do as you're going out into the world, delivering your message, and you're sharing information, you got to think. Think means the T is for truth. Is this true? H is for helpful. Is this helpful? The I is for inspiring. Is this inspiring? The N is equals for necessary. Is this necessary? And the K is this kind? So if you're going to be going out into the world and be outstanding, you will think about everything. You will think about the messages that you're sharing. You will think about how you speak about yourself. You will think about how you think about yourself. Imagine that. And imagine before you actually go out into the world and deliver on your intention, and you allow yourself to think, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And then you deliver your message. Whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's verbally, you deliver your message by being the best you can be, by being outstanding. So part of this does require you taking a little bit of self-control. And that's okay. Because when you keep stepping up and taking self-control, you've got to remember here, your past does not equal your future. You have a moral responsibility to be the best you can be. When you learn this information and you learn this knowledge, which you're going to get throughout this program and throughout the book, once we complete this, I would say to you, you have a moral responsibility to share this information to yourself, by the way, first, to your family, to society, to your environment, to everybody. You have a moral responsibility to be outstanding for you first, then for those people that you claim to be so important to you, your family, and then society, and everybody else and anybody else who is blessed to meet you. Part of doing this is you got to hold yourself accountable. So there needs to be a little bit of accountability for you. But you got to do it with honesty and do it with diligence. Set out your roles. Think about how you're going to create that self-direction in terms of directing yourself in the area you want to be at. Set out your plan and schedule it. Think every day, what am I doing today to be outstanding, to be the best I can be? And then accept it and own it. Do not fall into this diffusion of responsibility. A lot of people do this. Most people, we know for you, this is about to change because you're making a decision today. Because the diffusion of responsibility, this usually occurs when people who need to make a decision wait for someone else to act instead. This is not for anybody else, this is you. The more people who are involved, by the way, the more likely is that each person will do nothing, believing that somebody else will respond first. This is the diffusion of responsibility. You do not diffuse the responsibility of your life, of your choices, of you being outstanding. You step into your space, and then you are outstanding. Ultimately, it is your choice. You have to be responsible. So start today, take control of your life, and be outstanding. This is the beginning of your journey. Have an outstanding day. I know I will.
Thank you, Pat. I have one little follow-up question, if I may.
You may, of course.
There's some will have stories, will have labels, will have roles. I am a mother, I am this, I am that, I am from this background. How can you spot the difference between a truth and a story, or truth and a label?
Well, see, there's truth in all of it, Pete, right? I am a father. I am a husband. And there's truth in that. But first and foremost, I have to be me. And I choose for me to be me, to take that time. And I do this purposely. When I take time for me, where I would take something I will read, and I will ask myself, I will question myself quite often, am I being the best me? And, you know, when we talk about being a father or a husband or a mother or a sister or a brother, you see, I have a saying, I ask people, would you like me to be kind to you, or do you want me to tell you the truth? I can be kind to you forever, but I may not be telling the truth. I have a choice where I can choose to be kind and then hold back on me being me and being truthful. So now I'm quite truthful, and I do it with kindness. You know, but when, you know, it's like a friend of mine said one time, you know, a true friend, Pat, is the guy who will tell you that you have bad breath. The person who will be truthful when you need to know that they're being truthful. And we've all gone through life, I think we've discovered, and you may have heard it many times, that when it comes down to it, you could probably count all your friends on one finger. The one who will be truthful and be 100% themselves with you at all times, and be comfortable by being themselves with you. My intention, and I choose to be the best husband because I choose to be me in that relationship. I choose to be the best father I can be because I choose to be me in that relationship, first and foremost. So that doesn't mean I feel pain and I feel empathy and I feel sorrow when it comes. But I try to be the best I can be and think about me and how will I be outstanding in that moment and how can I be truthful. And that doesn't mean I don't cry or don't have emotion. Of course I do, but I always want to be honest and be truthful in the best way I can be. And I always think, okay, if we're going through a moment or something that needs to change and is challenging, I think, well, how can we come through this? How can we come through this? What can we do today? I don't ever give a second thought to what we can't do. I understand if something has happened and I can't bring something back. Well, then how can I manage it now? How can I manage it today, tomorrow, and forever? How can I manage to be the best I can be despite the circumstance? And if I find myself responding and reacting in a way that's not congruent to who I am, I have to practice this, by the way. I have to practice this every day because there is something that will challenge you. And the same for everybody. There is something that will challenge you every day on this. Usually that list of things that we blame. Sometimes, by the way, remember, sometimes these decisions and things that are happening are outside of your control, for sure. And sometimes that list of things that you're blaming are part responsible for how you react to things in that moment until you choose to change it. Until you choose to change it and say, well, if I can't change that, I can change what I need to change for me. Not my job to change you, Pete Lonton, or anybody else. It's just that I can change how I think about me, how I respond to your questions, to your actions, and to maybe some people have to respond to accusations or interpretations of the truth. God knows everybody has their own interpretation of the truth, right? But I can only know what's true for me. I can't tell you what's true for you. I can suggest it, but ultimately you have to be responsible. You've got to be able to respond to that truth. Usually what happens is, by the way, I think it's really important to point out now, is usually people try to be responsible to challenges, usually confuse it with just being responsible to how they deal with challenges. You also need to be responsible for understanding how absolutely outstanding you can be and be responsible for the wonderful things that come in your life too, and the beautiful things that come your way, and being able to accept them. To me, that's what truly being outstanding is. And I can say, which I'm sure we will talk about later at some point, I live a fearless life. I'm absolutely fearless of where I want to go, what I want to do. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be worried about certain things if they were to happen. But I don't fear anything. I see myself on the way, not in the way. I see everything for me as on the way, not in the way. And that means the beautiful and the wonderful and outstanding things are going to happen for me too. And let me tell you, there are lots going to happen because that's what I choose. You can choose it too. I hope that answered the question, Pete. I don't know if I went off on a tangent, but
no, it's listen, it's all it is about choice, you know, and I think it's a beautiful introduction to where we're going to go. So that's what we want to do, is make sure we have a tangible and understandable blueprint for people to follow, you know, and why it's so important to actually go through these steps and to understand the origin of your choices, your thoughts, your truth, and deciding where you want to go. So I'm really looking forward to it and the power of it. So Pat, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think just to reiterate what you just said there, just as important, this is going to be a blueprint. This is going to be part of a plan. As we go forward with this, what we're going to do is we're going to help you create that plan and give you the knowledge and the understanding that you need. And maybe it's something you even want, that you can choose. You will know what you need to do. You will know what you need to think in order to choose what you want to have. But what we're putting together here, I can promise you, will change your life. It will change the life of many others. This is not something you're going to give away. This is something you're going to keep. You will share with others in a different way. But ultimately, it's your journey, it's your story. You will recommend it for others to use. But what you take away will be for you. And I can tell you, this will be practical in every way too. We're making it happen for you. So thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pat. Until the next time.
I look forward to it.